History usually remembers men for the power they seized, but once in a while, history pauses to remember a man for the power he refused. At the end of the American Revolution, the world was not watching a battlefield, it was watching a decision. A single choice made in silence, without applause, without violence. A choice that would quietly define the meaning of American life, American dreams, and American restraint for centuries to come. In the 18th century, power followed bloodlines. Kings ruled by birth, empires expanded by force. Generals who won wars rarely returned to civilian life. They ruled because they could, and no one stopped them. History had proven one truth again and again: once power is taken, it is almost never returned. Yet in 1783, against every historical pattern, one man stood at the edge of absolute authority and did something no one expected. George Washington was not born a revolutionary. He was raised in discipline, order, and respect for authority. He admired structure. He believed in duty. Before rebellion, he served the British crown. But when colonial voices were ignored and rights were dismissed, loyalty turned into obligation. Washington did not seek chaos, he accepted responsibility. When the Continental Congress appointed him commander of the Continental Army, it was not because he promised victory, it was because he promised endurance. Washington understood that wars are not won by passion alone. They are survived by discipline, patience, and restraint would define every chapter of his leadership. The Revolutionary War was not heroic in the way history books describe. It was desperate. Soldiers lacked shoes, coats, food, and pay. Winter killed more men than British bullets. Disease swept through camps. Desertion was common. Mutiny was feared. At Valley Forge, soldiers wrapped bleeding feet in rags and marched anyway. Washington watched men die slowly, not gloriously, and still he stayed. He stayed when officers questioned him. He stayed when Congress failed him. He stayed when defeat seemed inevitable. Leadership was not loud, it was consistent. Slowly, loyalty hardened, not loyalty to victory, loyalty to character. When the war finally ended, when Britain surrendered and the impossible became reality, Washington emerged as the most powerful man in the New World. He commanded the army. He held the trust of the people. Congress was weak. The government was fragile. There were no real laws to stop him. History leaned forward. Soldiers were angry. They had not been paid. Promises had been broken. Many believed the new nation was already betraying them. Whispers spread through the officer ranks. If civilians could not govern, perhaps the army should. And if the army ruled, perhaps Washington should lead it. This moment became known as the Newburgh Conspiracy. Officers spoke carefully. They used words like stability and order. They warned that democracy was fragile. They hinted that Washington's leadership was necessary for survival. They believed a strong hand was safer than chaos. Many genuinely believed they were saving the country. Washington listened. He did not interrupt. He did not threaten. Then he stood and spoke quietly. He reminded them why they fought. He spoke of sacrifice, of honor, of promises made not to power but to principle. And then something unexpected happened. Washington reached into his pocket and removed a pair of reading glasses. Few had ever seen him wear them. His voice softened as he said he had grown gray and nearly blind in service to his country. The room fell silent. Men who had survived war wept. The conspiracy collapsed not through force but through moral authority. But the greatest test still remained. In December 1783, Washington traveled to Annapolis. There were no armies behind him, no weapons raised. He stood before Congress and resigned his commission. He surrendered command. He gave power back to civilians. No victorious general in modern history had ever done this. King George III reportedly said that if Washington truly relinquished power, he would be the greatest man in the world. Washington returned to Mount Vernon. He planned to live quietly as a farmer. For the first time in history, a nation saw power returned willingly. But America was still fragile. The government failed. Chaos threatened survival. Once again, Washington was called, and once again he refused absolute authority. He presided over the Constitutional Convention with silence and restraint. His presence reminded everyone why limits mattered. The Constitution was born from fear of power, not faith in it. Power divided, authority restrained, law above men. Washington was elected president unanimously. He accepted reluctantly. He governed carefully. He avoided royal titles. He stepped down after 2 terms. Again, he walked away. America survived not because it had the strongest army, but because it had leaders who knew when to stop. George Washington proved that power does not define greatness, restraint does. If this story inspired you, hit the like button, subscribe to Empire of the Mind, and comment your answers to these questions. Because sometimes the quietest choices shape the world.